Hello and welcome to Pictorial Planet. My name's John Finch. I'm stood in front of Pluscarden Abbey in Moray. It's one of the oldest abbeys left working in the United Kingdom. I'm excited to be here because some of this stonework is beautiful and I want to capture some of that on my film. I brought FP4 Plus with me, my SL66, and I'll be looking forward to developing this in Geoffrey Crawley's FX-2. Now, Crawley's FX-2 was his second Acutance developer. It wasn't quite as sharp as FX-1. He designed it to be a little less sharp, but better in the tonality area, especially the mid-tones of the photographs. So I'll be looking forward to that. And later on in the video, I'll be posting the development time and the EI I get with this film with that particular developer. So I want to get on and get some of these photographs. The light is changing all the time, so I will see you back in the darkroom. It's fun to find these little nooks and crannies in places, and this is one I found today. I've actually photographed this before and it was good to come across it again. This lovely doorway with that view through to the field behind, and is quite interesting, it's intriguing. So I've got a couple of shots of that. What would make this an even better photograph, I think, would be somebody in the photograph actually maybe leaning on the gate, bring some human interest into this image. But as a still life, if you like, it works quite well too. So I'll get a shot of that. Here's another interesting little nook that I found. This fascinating wall here with this interesting relief carving in stone on that side there, and this cross, this old looking cross down in the bottom. Really interesting place to photograph, and the fence as well kind of goes with it, with this old rusty barbed wire. So, you know, it's such fun to explore these places and find these little nooks and crannies that make interesting photographs. It's very hard sometimes to get a good exposure because we have the dappled sunlight on this, but it is dappled, and there's trees here that's kind of reducing the sunlight a little bit, so it's not as bright as it might be. So I'm going to get an average meter reading of this, and hopefully I'll be able to deal with any extra contrast that I don't want in the darkroom, and maybe burn in little areas that might be too bright or bring up some of the darker areas. So to do that, I'm going to just take a straightforward meter reading, incident meter reading. So I'll make sure my meter's set on that. I'll just face back towards the camera, tilting slightly down. And yeah, I get 1/4 of a second f16. Well, we don't need a lot of depth of field with this, so I could bring it down to a 30th at 5/6 or a 15th at f8. And I probably will go for a 15th at f8. It's more in the optimum range of that lens. And I'll use mirror up, and I've got my remote shutter release. So that should get a sharp shot. Get that focus spot on. Yep. And there we are. I like these waist level viewfinders. I see the picture in front of me. I see exactly what it's going to look like. And for this shot, I'm missing out this top bit here. I've already got a shot of that, and I'm just focusing on this area here of the cross and the fence. So I'll just check my meter. 15th f8. There we go. I'm going to go mirror up and take the shot. Lovely. Okay. I think that's it for me today here. I've got plenty of shots back there, and now I'm going to go home and start working on these negatives. When Crawley formulated FX-2, he was looking for an Acutance developer with a wider tonality than FX-1. FX-1 was super sharp. FX-1, after all, was a sharpness first developer that he formulated. But for FX-2, he wanted more tonality, especially in the mid-tones that can easily become compressed when using an Acutance developer. And so he went down the path of glycine. Now, glycine was known to create edge effects, especially with high-speed films and a carbonate accelerator. So Crawley decided to formulate a glycine developer for slow and medium speed films that would create edge effects that would have Acutance. To do this, he used glycine, but glycine is a slow developer and it needs sometimes a little bit of help, and so he added metol as the help for the glycine. Now, these two are not super additive as far as I know, but the metol just keeps things rolling along, so it's not such a slow developer. The other thing he did, interestingly, was in the working dilution, he added pincryptol yellow. Now, this is a dye, and it acts as a restrainer, especially for those edge effects. Remember how in FX1 we used potassium iodide as a restrainer at a very, very high dilution. So it just affected the edges of high and low development. Well, he's done the same thing here, but instead of iodide, he used pincryptol yellow. Now, some people don't use this at all. It's hard to get hold of. And so if you can get it, test your films and see whether it makes a difference or not. If you can't get it, don't worry about it. The difference is probably very small indeed. The other thing he did was he recommended using potassium carbonate crystallized. And the reason he did that, he believed that potassium carbonate crystallized had a little bit of buffering bicarbonate in the crystals. Now, some people make the potassium carbonate B and add a little bit of bicarbonate into that, and you might try that, but I don't. I just used the potassium carbonate anhydrous and just go with it. And again, it's probably a very small amount of difference, and I wouldn't really be able to tell anyway. So that's his FX-2. I'll make sure you've got the formula up on the screen so you can make it too. It's a very good developer, and I want to show you some stunning prints I got from our photo shoot at Pluscarden Abbey. So I've three to show you here that I particularly like. This one was a close-up of part of the building And I loved all these lines, these intersecting diagonals and straight lines. And it's a really nice, kind of interesting black and white photograph. There's some light differences, this bright area here that the sun was on, and these darker areas contrast it, light and dark. So it's a really interesting photograph to me. Now, looking at it closely, it is sharp, and I think you saw from the 100% that I showed you on the screen from the scans, they are sharp. You can see every blade of grass that's growing on this roof. It's quite incredible. But what's also really interesting is the tonality. So you can see these mid-tones are rendered beautifully. So it definitely is giving me a full range of tones from the deep blacks here, right up through these lovely mid-tones here. All these lovely mid-tones, the detail on this roof. And then, of course, these very light, high tones here of maybe a value of zone 7, maybe touching on zone 8. These are lovely. So I'm very impressed with this. This is a lovely picture. And it's exactly as I envisaged it when I looked at it. It's a really nice picture. I like that. I might make a larger blow-up of this, actually. I think this photograph to me is stunning. It's a high-tone photograph of the white walls that were on the side of the building. And honestly, it's stunning. I can't stop looking at this picture. Super sharp, amazing detail in these stones, and just gorgeous lighting. That it's really brought the lighting out. It's punchy lighting. It's just so nice. There's this nice darker area at the top that looks like I've burned it in a bit, but I haven't. That's a shadow. And down here, of course, the grass is a little darker. And so those two balance each other out a little bit. And it's just a lovely high-tone image. And this is an example of Crawley at his best, because that is a lovely picture developed by a lovely developer that really does bring that sharpness, that acutance with the tonality, the lovely tonality that you might need. So I hope this has inspired you. It's a lovely developer, well worth the effort if you dial yourself in to get your correct film speed and development time. And you've probably been waiting for my film speed and development time, and I'll tell you what it is now. I am getting an ISO of 160 with FP4 and a development time of 10 minutes. So armed with that information, you will be able to emulate what I've done here. But I do encourage you to find your own development time and your own ISO, because all of us use a different technique when we're developing. So please buy my book, read up how to get your own development time and personal ISO. And next time we're going to be looking at Crawley's first solvent developers, FX-3 and FX-4.